Welcome back to Mac Stories Unwind. Today's show is brought to you by Collide. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Viticci. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing so well. I mean, I'm like basking in the afterglow of the Mac OS review, if you can call it that. I'm just kind of enjoying myself and starting to get back into the media, playing some games, watching some movies, doing some stuff. And I wanted to talk to you. I want to kick things off and tell you about a movie I watched just a couple of days ago.
Okay, tell me about this movie. Then I have a surprise for you.
Oh,
your movie first.
All right. I think that this show should just be called Mac Stories Surprise. or called Teachy's Surprise. I don't know. All right. So my pick this week is Flora and Son, which is a new Apple TV Plus movie that came out last Friday, I think it was. And this is starring Eve Hewson, who is in the Apple TV Plus series Bad Sisters.
Okay.
And she's in it. This movie is right now available. It's very interesting about the rights of this movie. I was reading a little bit about it. It's available everywhere in the world except for Ireland, where it's set. It's set in Dublin, Ireland. And what they're doing in Ireland is they're releasing this in movie theaters in February. So poor people in Ireland can't watch this for a while yet. And they're going to have to pay extra for it if they want to see it in the theater. I assume eventually it'll show up on the Apple TV there too. But right now you can't get it in Ireland unless you have some sort of VPN or whatever. But you can watch it just about everywhere else that I'm aware of. And it stars Eve Hewson, who plays Flora. And Flora is a young single mother living in Dublin who had a child when she was 17. So she's in her, say, early to mid 30s, and her son is a teenager. And she's got a hard life. She's working as like a nanny. She's going out at night, partying, drinks too much. Her son doesn't like her. She doesn't like her son. Her son's getting in trouble with the police all the time. It's just not a good situation. And the boy's father is played by Jack Rayner, who I saw in a weird sci-fi show on Amazon Prime that I can't remember the name of, where he actually played a guy from Tennessee and had like a Southern U.S. accent. But in this, he's Irish, and just a very weird thing to see somebody who you're like, I vaguely recognize this guy, but his accent's all different now. But there are very thick Irish accents in this movie. So I think if you're not used to Irish accents, I would suggest maybe watching it with the subtitles on. But it also stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who is a guitar teacher. And what happens in this movie, is that Flora is trying to find a way to connect with her son, because her son is in trouble with the police. And if he crosses the law one more time, basically they've said they're going to throw him in jail. And so she's out one day and she sees a guitar that someone's throwing into a dumpster, and she grabs it and she brings it home to her son, who promptly dismisses it and is like, I don't want that, Mom. And I don't want to give away too much of what happens in the movie, but basically she ends up taking up the guitar and finding an online teacher. There's a great sequence where she's testing out teachers on YouTube. And she finally finds this guy who is Joseph Gordon-Levitt in real life. And he's in California, and he teaches her how to play the guitar. And he's got his own songs that he plays for her, and she's giving him critiques of his songs. And what's really fun about this movie is that Flora ends up taking to the guitar and getting into music. And not unbeknownst to her at first, her son is into music too, but in a whole different way that I won't spoil. And it's a great story of kind of like where it's this kind of tense, unhappy family relationship that, you can imagine that something gets resolved, and I'll say this much, that it's a happy ending in the end of the day. But it doesn't go down kind of the rom-com path where everybody like has the best possible outcome, wildly unrealistic outcome of what their life happens to be. It ends up with a conclusion that is, I found really satisfying. And from a relationship standpoint between all these people, between, Flora and her son and the dad, as well as Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, who's in California. And it felt more realistic and real to me in a way that was really authentic, and kind of really one of the first movies I've seen on Apple TV Plus that I would say, you know what, I will watch this again, because I really, really enjoyed how this movie went. I mean, part of it is too, I kind of love Ireland, and I knew a lot of the locations where this was shot in and around Dublin, since my son used to live there, and that was kind of fun to see people, see the characters down by the waterfront and other places throughout Dublin. And there's a great music in it. So I think, if you enjoy music, if you enjoy a good story about a family relationship that's tough, but trying to, people who are trying to redeem themselves and make something more of themselves than, the hard hand that life maybe has handed them. It's a really fantastic movie. And it's kind of a bummer that people who live in Ireland, who would probably connect with this the most, can't watch it yet. But I think this is a good enough movie that if you are in Ireland and this comes out in February, I would go to the theaters to see this movie. It's a very, very good movie. And I think Eve Hewson does an amazing job as the mother in this story. And, Joseph Gordon-Levitt just plays like this mellow California dude, guitar, washed up, musician who's teaching guitar online, which is kind of fun too. So it's a fantastic movie.
All right. Well, that sounds fun.
This episode of Mac Stories Unwind is brought to you by Collide. If you work in security or IT and your company has Okta, this message is for you. Have you noticed that for the past few years, the majority of data breaches and hacks you read about have something in common? It's employees. Hackers absolutely love exploiting vulnerable employee devices and credentials. But it doesn't have to be that way. Imagine a world where only secure devices can access your cloud apps. In that world, phished credentials are useless to hackers, and you can manage every OS, even Linux, from a single dashboard. Best of all, you can get employees to fix their own device security issues without creating more work for IT. The good news is you don't have to imagine this world. You can just start using Collide. Collide is the device trust solution for companies with Okta, and it ensures that if a device isn't trusted and secure, it can't log into your cloud apps. Visit collide.com/MacStoriesUnwind today to watch a demo and see how it works. That's KOLIDE.com/MacStoriesUnwind. Our thanks to Collide for their support of the show.
Okay, so my surprise. So I actually already surprised you on the Plus segment of App Stories Plus that we recorded earlier today. So I'm not going to do a big reveal again. I would recommend, Unwind listeners, be on the lookout this Sunday for the early release of App Stories Plus, and there's a Plus segment at the end of the show. But if you're listening to Unwind, because there's also a gaming angle to this surprise, I'm just gonna reveal it today here on the show. So I got myself a pair of X-Real Air glasses. These are sort of these AR glasses, AR sunglasses that are USB-C powered and allow you to use any USB-C computer, like an iPad Pro or a MacBook Air, or console, like a Nintendo Switch or a Steam Deck or a ROG Ally, as the video source, and they project a giant monitor in front of you. So these are relatively chunkier sunglasses. They're not as I mean, look it up online to get an idea what they look like. But these are, some of the better looking AR glasses that I've found to date. And these are part of this new generation of USB-C powered AR glasses that don't have eye tracking, don't have hand recognition, and all the bells and whistles of something like an Apple Vision Pro. But they are relatively affordable. I mean, we're talking here $400, right, as a purchase. A relatively affordable way to have a super portable monitor, in the sense that this is a monitor. in the form of sunglasses that you can just put in their case and carry around with you and connect to an iPad or to a Nintendo Switch when you want a giant display in front of your eyes. And when I say giant, I mean, here you have two 1080p displays per eye. So it's not 4K per eye like the Apple Vision Pro, it's 1080p per eye, but it still looks crisp and legible and colorful. This look great to my eyes. And what you can do is you can project up to, I believe, 340 inches of a virtual monitor in front of your eyes. And it's wild, John. Also because in addition to the X-Real Air glasses, I also got the X-Real Beam accessory. Now, the Beam is like a small battery pack that integrates the functionality of having, well, a portable battery, and it also serves as a hub. It's like this mini hub with two USB-C ports, one USB in, that's your video source, and one USB out that goes to your glasses. And the Beam also has a click wheel, sort of like an iPod on top, and a button on the side. And the Beam is necessary to enable spatial computing. So what you can do here when you connect, so you can use your X-Real glasses in straight up like USB to the computer. Like you can directly connect the glasses to the computer. You don't need the Beam accessory. When you do, you just project a virtual monitor in front of your eyes. This comes with a lens cover that allows you to actually block out. It's like a black plastic cover that allows you to block out your field of view so you just see the monitor, or you can see your monitor in your physical space, whatever you want. So you can use the glasses directly connected via USB-C to an iPad or a computer or a Nintendo Switch. If you get the Beam accessory in the middle, so in between the glasses and the console or computer, you can enable different types of spatial computing. So you can have a follow mode, so the display follows your head as you move it around. You can have a fixed mode, it's called body anchor. So that fixes the virtual monitor up in the physical space somewhere, and you can recenter it if you turn your head by pressing a button. Or you can also use the Beam to control the size and the placement of the display, the distance of the display. So using the Beam, there's a click wheel and you can adjust the size of the display. You can go as small, like 40 inches, for example, and simulate a distance of like 1 meter away from you. Or you can do what I did when I was recording App Stories today, which is I created a 337-inch display that was virtually sitting 10 meters away from me.
Wow. What's the experience like, the difference between those two things? Because I would think at 1080p, maybe what you did with 10 meters away and 300 and some inches.
It still it always looks great. It just It becomes more a matter of how close to you want the UI to be.
Okay.
But let me tell you, John, because I saved this for Unwind, I played some Zelda Tears of the Kingdom with this today. So I also got, in addition to the Beam, because you get better performance with the Nintendo Switch if the Nintendo Switch is docked, right?
Right.
You can use it in portable mode, but in portable mode, the performance of Zelda is degraded a little.
Yeah.
In docked mode, you get better performance. The frame rate is more fluid and the graphics look slightly better. So I also got from Amazon an HDMI to USB-C converter. It's a small dongle that takes in an HDMI cable and outputs a USB-C signal.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is Nintendo Switch, Genki covered dock mini.
Right.
So the Nintendo Switch is connected to the Genki covered dock. And the Genki provides power to the Nintendo Switch and has an HDMI cable. HDMI cable to the converter to the Beam to the glasses. All right? And I can leave all of this on the nightstand out of view, and I can just lay in bed, relax, and have a giant monitor on the ceiling and play Zelda. And that's exactly what I tried today. I tested it in bed and I tested it in my living room. And I was playing Zelda with this giant fake screen in front of me.
So you're using like a Pro controller or something like that?
I was using the Joy-Cons, but you can also use the Pro controller. And it was incredible. It literally, like, the colors were really vivid. The resolution was okay. And just the freedom to have to not be constrained by your physical space, right? That's the thing. I wouldn't have room in my apartment for,
Sure.
I mean, I barely have room for a 65-inch TV.
I was going to say, you don't have room for a 300-inch TV, Federico? Come
I
on.
don't.
You got to live a little larger.
And especially 10 meters away from me, my living room is not that big. But I truly believe, and as I said on App Stories, I think I'm going to do an episode of, we're going to do an episode about this eventually.
Yeah.
The thing is, I truly believe this kind of spatial computing is the future. Not just about the Vision Pro, but in general, because it removes the physical constraints of the physical monitors that you can put in an office or on a desk or in a living room. And the ability to have Zelda, beamed straight to my retinas with a giant screen and have that screen be spatially aware of my surroundings, right, is wild. And this is an entry-level device. Like the X-Real glasses are an entry-level AR device. They don't have, like I said, any kind of hand recognition. They don't have cameras. They don't have eye tracking. These are just glasses that project an image in front of your two eyes. And it's still good enough to have a portable monitor for a console or for an iPad, right? For a MacBook Air in clamshell mode even. As long as you enable the terminal command that lets you use a MacBook Air in clamshell mode on battery power. I discovered today there's a terminal command for that, or a Mac app called Amphetamine that lets you use. I know that app. Lets you use a MacBook Air in clamshell on battery power. But next up on my list of things to try is the ROG Ally with my external. So the plan is to do ROG Ally external GPU and the usual dance: HDMI out, converter in the middle, beam, X-Real beam, and then the glasses. Now, this sounds like a lot of cables, and it depends. If you just want to do direct connection between glasses to a computer, it's just going to be one cable, right? Just going to be one USB-C cable. And it doesn't get in the way. I don't mind it. It's like the battery pack of the Vision Pro. That cable doesn't get in the way. If you want to do the X-Real beam accessory to enable spatial computing, so screen adjustment and screen position in your physical space, that adds a bit of wires, to the setup. But if you can manage to organize those cables, or just like what I did, for example, in the bedroom, I have my Nintendo Switch and the Genki dock all placed on the nightstand. I can just lay in bed with one cable going out to the nightstand. Who cares about the mess of cables on the nightstand, right?
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, the Genki is great for that kind of thing.
The Genki is great because it's super compact. But the other advantage is I can play with a giant screen and I won't bother Sylvia. Because there's no TV turned on in the bedroom at night.
Right. There's no bright light, which is fantastic.
There's no bright light except in front of my eyes. They are comfortable. I got prescription lenses, as I told you on App Stories. It's been only a few hours. I've been testing this since this morning, and I'm already in love with this thing.
It's really interesting to me. I mean, there's a couple of questions I have, I guess. One is really specific, which is with the ROG Ally, why use the eGPU if all you've got is 1080p on these glasses?
Well, that's a good question. I am wondering if some games like Cyberpunk, if you want to play those games with ray tracing enabled, they're obviously going to struggle even at 1080p with the built-in GPU of the ROG Ally.
True.
So even at 1080p, that's still gonna struggle if you want to enable ray tracing. But for most games, absolutely. Like if I want to play Cocoon, for example, which was supposed to be my pick this week, I'll talk about it next week. If I want to play a simple indie game on my ROG Ally or Dave the Diver or whatever.
Yeah, just go directly into the
Just go directly to the console. Just go directly to the Ally. You don't need the eGPU, right? And again, that's the beauty of it. It's just USB-C.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, what's interesting to me too about this is basically a replacement for a screen, whereas something like the Vision Pro is a replacement for your computer, including your screen, right?
That is a great way to describe
it.
Yes.
And so the question in my mind is like, where does this, looking 5 years down the road, is the future something like the Vision Pro? Or is the future something simpler, something that's just a replacement for the screen on your desk, whether it's a TV or a computer monitor or a laptop screen or whatever it is? It's a pair of glasses that can be, this is pretty versatile. You can connect to essentially anything that can output a video signal.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Works with anything. And like I said, I only tested it with my Nintendo Switch, but I know I'm going to play some Cocoon on my ROG Ally tonight, and I'm going to go straight, over USB-C without the eGPU. And I'll let you know how this goes. And then we'll do another episode of App Stories, more about the work aspect of this. But yeah, this is the surprise I've been saving.
That's a great surprise, Federico. I have one more thing for you to test when you're doing this. Is I assume that you've got somewhere one of these, not docks, but hubs basically that you use with like a MacBook or an iPad, which just has like USB-C in, and then it has a bunch of outlets, including things like HDMI. I wonder if that would work in place of the USB-C to HDMI converter that you got. I'm talking about the non-powered stuff. Like 12 South makes them, Hitachi makes them. A bunch of companies make these that don't require power. They're bus powered, but they just can.
I can try.
Yeah, it'd just be interesting because a lot of people have those already. So that would be one less thing that someone would have to buy. Although I know that it's pretty cheap to buy these converters. Tend to be like $15, $20 usually. They're not super duper expensive anyway. Well, that's really cool, Federico. I'm really excited to hear more about this and see what it's like, kind of in a more of a long-term, medium-term kind of setup of using this actually in your daily life. Tonight when you go to bed and want to play a little video game before you go to sleep, or maybe just sitting on the couch one evening or something. All right. Well, that's cool. I'm really excited. I'm going to have to go. Yeah. Now you're going to send me down probably to a bunch of subreddits and
that's what I do.
Bunch of websites looking at prices for various things. But I'm used to that. I can do it. All right. Well, that's it for this week. I hope everybody appreciated and was okay with waiting an extra day for this from the Unwind Plus feed. We really wanted to get this surprise out, and Federico literally just got some of this stuff this morning. So he's been testing all morning long. I want to thank our sponsor for this episode, and that's Collide. You can find us over at macstories.net. Federico and I are both on Mastodon. Just go to vitici.macstories.net to follow Federico, and johnvorhees.macstories.net to follow me. We're also on Instagram, where Federico is at Vitici. That's VITICCI, and I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.